My name is Mark Reinders. I am the CEO of the HempFlax group of companies, and you listen today at the Professionally Cannabis Podcast.
Where do they go, the smoke rings I blow each night? Oh,
Hello, listener, and welcome back to the Professionally Cannabis Podcast. I'm Johnny Weiser, and with me, as ever, is my co-host and friend, Oscar Houseman. Oscar, could you tell our listener who we had on the pod today?
Our guest today is Mark Reinders. Now, he's the CEO of HempFlax Group and actually our first guest from the Netherlands. But what's interesting about him and his business, compared to what we normally talk about on Professionally Cannabis, this is far more to do with the uses of hemp, not just cannabis as a psychoactive, although we do touch upon that, but really talking about hemp the plant and the variety of uses that we can get out of this fast-growing, ground-remediating, animal-feeding, concrete-building, polymer-bending magic bean. So for listeners who normally listen to Professional Cannabis and think about it in terms of THC and CBD, today's episode's going to be a little bit left field, but very happy to have Mark on and great to see what the hemp revolution could do.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear this interview again. Let's roll the clip.
where do they go, the smoke rings
Our
I
guest today is
blow
Mark
each
Reinders.
night?
Since joining HempFlax in 2008, he's risen to become the CEO. It was founded in 1994, and this year is going to grow between 2.5 and 3.5 hectares of industrial hemp. Mark, welcome to the pod.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having here. I'm sorry, I need to correct you a little bit. It's 2,500 hectares of hemp. So it's 1,000 times more than you said. 2.5 hectares would make my life much easier, but 2,500 is more fun to do.
It gives us more to chat about on the pod as well.
Exactly.
So, Mark, as you'll know, our standard and customary question for all of our guests on the pod is, what led you to the plant?
Actually, I'm coming from a farming family. My father was in the early 90s one of the first farmers who started growing hemp for HempFlax. And at that time, I was a teenager who actually loved working on the farm, driving the tractor, but removing the weeds from the crops by hand during my summer holidays was not one of my favorite parts of the farming job. And because hemp is growing that fast, it grows more than 4 centimeters a day. It doesn't need any manual weed removal because there are no weeds growing in the hemp. Because hemp is growing that fast, it outcompetes weeds completely. So that was my first part of this love affair with hemp, because I didn't have to do much labor, manual labor on the crop, which actually was maybe not the good reason. Later, when I got older and I did my bachelor study in crop production, I had to do an internship at a company, and I decided to do that at HempFlax in 2003 because I got interested what happened with the hemp crop when it left our farm. And in the 6 months, I had the opportunity to work as an intern in HempFlax at that time. I saw the massive opportunities this crop can do and the massive amount of products you can make from it. And that intrigued me. And after finishing management studies and did some work in potato trading business, I used to work 4 years for a recycling company, which was a great job to do. But actually there I realized how good recycling is to solve a problem that's there, or to minimize at least the effects of this waste pollution. I thought if you really want to change something in this waste generating supply chain we all know in the world today, I have to do something at the beginning of the supply chain and not at the end. And with this thinking, I went back to Ben Dronkes, the owner and founder of HempFlax, and I shared my view with him. And actually, he was at that moment doubting in 2008 a little bit what to do with HempFlax, because you can imagine HempFlax was one of the first pioneers, but it was his time way ahead. Today, hemp is very popular. Everybody wants to be in the hemp business. But at that time, hemp was very small and not very profitable. So not many people were active in that. And Actually, Ben Dronkers gave me the opportunity to run this company for a year. We were having only one factory in Oude Pekela, did about 200, 300 hectares of hemp. We had 5 employees at that time, and we started building up the company, professionalizing it, and now 12 years after I joined the company, we have 2 factories, one in Oude Pekela in the Netherlands, one in Romania, where we have a brand new factory, and since June of this year, we own an insulation producing factory in Germany as well, and we're employing at the moment a small 70 people. So we really managed to move it forward.
Could you take us on a journey as HempFlax has gone on one over being in operations for such a long time, and tell us how the uses of hemp have changed over your period of operation? I imagine it at the beginning was more about fibers and seeds, but the modern day business demands CBD.
Now, actually, it didn't change much. It evaluated, and we moved more toward total crop valuation. So going back to the early 90s, you have to realize that there was no development done on harvesting equipment or processing equipment because the crop was prohibited for a long time, for decades. So there was no industrial revolution. What happened in the other crops didn't happen in hemp. So when Ben had a vision to start HempFlax, there was nothing there. And actually, the reason he started HempFlax was that he wanted to prove to all the critics that hemp could be an industrial crop. Because Ben knew from his history and active in the cannabis space, like Sensi Seeds, but also the founder of the Hemp Cannabis Marijuana Museum in Amsterdam and later Barcelona. From this museum, he learned the ancient uses of hemp, like the sails of a sailing ship and the ropes in the clothing of the sailors. There was so much hemp being used in a sailing ship, and he told about it in the museum, and everybody said, oh, it will never come back. And he wanted to prove it could come back. And that's why he started HempFlax. But actually, he started the greenfield operation because there was nothing there. So originally, HempFlax started in an old flax mill. That's why we called HempFlax, because we started in an old flax mill.
Ah, okay.
And flax is also a bast crop fiber, and they took that as a starting point when, okay, it works for flax, maybe it works for hemp. But you need to realize that flax becomes 1 meter 20, 1 meter 30, the longest. Hemp can grow up to 4 meters tall. So it's not really rocket science to understand that this long, tough fiber is difficult to process on the flax line. And after 2 years of trial and error, Ben decided that hemp needs its own specific processing equipment. And the flax factory was not standing in the best area for growing hemp. So he decided to move the factory to Oude Pekela. He bought an old paper mill that went out of business. So, also their sustainability, giving reuse to old buildings, circular economy, all words we never heard about in the early 90s. But actually, Ben did it already. And he bought this building, and we started growing hemp in this area and designed and construct hemp processing machinery and harvesting machinery according to our own ideas. But in the first years, it was a lot of trial and error because there was no basis to start from. I think by doing that for the last 25 years, and every year we made modifications and improvement to our equipment, we're getting better and better over the years.
It's such an incredible, sustainable and durable plant. And, you see a handful of innovative companies in recent years have embraced hemp. You have Porsche, who have integrated hemp into a couple of their cars, into the chassis. You have Levi's, they've reintroduced hemp into their clothes. We had a previous guest on the pod who was talking about how they used hemp in Chernobyl to remake that land arable. So with all this considered and the versatility of this amazing plant and crop, Why do you think there's still relatively low uptake across a variety of industries for use of hemp fibers, and the other aspects of the plant?
I think one of the reasons there could be that it's still a relatively new industry. We have 25 years of history, still a relatively small crop. If you look in Europe, there's only 40,000 hectares as a total. That's really a niche crop if you compare it to corn or potatoes or other crops. So for textile applications, massive volumes is needed. It's even impossible today to replace cotton, but I'm very happy to see that brands like Levi's are picking up the challenge and starts blending in hemp into their products, because we need to understand that a product like cotton, although it's coming from a plant, it's very polluting for the environment. If you look at water uses, you look at pesticide use, you look at labor circumstances and land use for the cotton production, it's massively polluting. So an alternative for hemp with hemp is here the key and the solution. But we need time to upscale the industry and to find a good method to refine the core bast fiber into more spinnable textile fiber that's more cottonized, so it can be spun on cotton machinery. So there's quite a lot of development work needs to be done there. On the other hand, we are still struggling in countries with the position of hemp, because hemp, industrial hemp, it comes from the cannabis family, and we have the problem that the single convention 1961 doesn't make any differentiation between industrial hemp and marijuana. It's all cannabis, and you see in a lot of countries, cannabis is prohibited in their opium laws, and industrial hemp is being legalized by making an exemption rule on the opium law. It's not being legalized completely by law, no, it's being exempted by law, and that gives legally sometimes a lot of problems, and that's less valid with hemp fiber, but it's more the case if you talk about, for example, CBD or hemp extracts derived from industrial hemp. I don't know how well informed you are, but recently the European Committee had the opinion that extracts coming from the hemp plant, even its industrial hemp plant, should be an opium product and should not be food. So we're moving away from the novel food discussion into the opium discussion. So the good news is we are not novel food anymore. The bad news is we are.
It's a narcotic.
It's a narcotic. So
Yes, we've been hearing how the UK is going to diverge on that, and perhaps the UK could be a port of entry for CBD products. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because once Brexit happens, then we can still treat it as a novel food.
I think the UK is doing a very wise thing, and to my opinion, UK is one of the few countries in the world dealing with CBD with a sensible way. And where other countries more looks like opportunities to prohibit it, the UK looks like opportunities to keep it in the market in a reliable and sensible way. Speaking on that topic, I would stress out that I also see CBD products brought into the market with medical claims, wrong labeling, not the right potency in the product, almost no CBD in it, let's say the so-called snake oil, that's influencing the market very negatively. So I wish that we quickly have some kind of good regulation so the market is regulated and organized, so that only the reliable, traceable, good products are coming in the market. That's important, because in the end of the day, it's consumer safety that's on the line here. And we are totally with the FSA and the authorities to regulate this. And we are even speaking with them about regulation on industry level, because we are in the Netherlands working with an industry standard. We committed ourselves to an industry standard, meaning that we agreed on specific methods of production, minimum testing requirements, maximum residue levels, labeling requirements. So there's quite a list of standard things we have ourselves committed to. And one of the most beautiful things we do, and we introduced this year, is that we can guarantee a full traceability of our products back to the field level. What? Even to the seed level. I can tell you from a bottle you buy in the shop and you give me the batch number, or you go to the website and you fill in the batch number, you can even find out where the seeds come from used for growing the hemp that is being used to extract the CBD from. So this full traceability should give reliability in the market and increase the safety for the consumer. And don't get me wrong, but we have to regulate this because in a correct way that the main players, the reliable players, can stay in the market. Because if you take it from the shelf, so the mainstream shelf, it doesn't mean that the demand for CBD is going away. And the main risk authorities are running here by taking it from the shelf, that this product goes underground. And if this product goes underground, you lose total control and traceability of this product. So it's in the importance of the consumer safety that authorities locally will organize this industry in a correct way.
If you might allow me to play devil's advocate here, is traceability really a requirement for consumers? Certainly for other wellness products, I wouldn't expect to see on my ibuprofen or my vitamin D the source of any phytonutrients that might be extracted for that. Is it not the same here? Are we not in fact dealing with something that, yes, for a wine or certain foodstuffs you might care about the source, but ultimately really you just want to know that it's good? Or is that what you're doing in the face of a lack of regulation to prove that it's good?
Traceability is for us very important because for us as a company, we also need to know when there's something with a bed, so we need to trace it back where it comes from, what happened, and to learn from it or become better. And also, if you have traceability and we know there's something wrong with the batch, we can do a recall based on this traceability. But first of all, we see now in the marketplace a lot of operators in CBD business, a lot of brands, hundreds and hundreds of CBD brands. While on the other hand, there are only very few CBD producers. And, there are also products out there that being sold, let's say, with 5% CBD in it. And in the end, it's only 0.5 or 0.05% CBD. So people are paying a lot of money for it without having the effect of that it works. I think for me, traceability is also a level of trustworthiness. If I know there's a lot of products in the market and I need to decide which product I need to buy, and if I buy a product with an industry standard that's being proven by an industry association and is being checked and tracing back to the producer, for me it gives a level of confidence.
At HempFlax, you have so many different business lines with completely varied industries as the final output. And a lot of what you're doing seems to be more about the ecological or sustainable impacts you can have by using the whole hemp plant rather than, I guess, a commercial driver. So how do you prioritize, and how do you get your mere 70 people to work on what feels like 100 different industries?
That's a good question, because what I always say is that the biggest advantage of hemp is sometimes in the same time its biggest disadvantage. The big advantage of hemp is it's such a multifunctional crop. Its disadvantage is it's such a multifunctional crop. Where to focus on? And here comes a little bit my problem by running HempFlax. I always explain our factory like it's an upside down factory. What do I mean with that? Is that if you go to a car factory, you see that 1,000 parts, iron, tires, seats, electrical parts are coming together. And at the end of the day, you have one product, a car. In our factories, exactly upside down. We have one raw material going in called hemp, and we break it down in all kind of things. And on each kilogram of fiber, if I want it or not, I will get 2 kilograms of chives. Those things are coming together. So in order to sell them off and be profitable, because I cannot stack them forever, I need to be active in different kind of markets. So if you do a total crop valuation, total crop approach like we do, you have to be active in all kind of markets, which for me 5 years ago became very difficult, because in the morning I had a meeting with an automotive company and we spoke about tensile strength in composite parts and braking at the location and Sharpie impact and all kind of mechanical items for composites. And in the afternoon I had a meeting with a retailer speaking about why hemp is good for animal bedding, and in the late afternoon with a construction company on insulating in a rooftop. And in the evening, I had a meeting with a CBD company speaking about the pharmacological effects of CBD. That's very difficult to manage by one guy. So that's why we made these business lines. And each business line is being managed by a responsible sales manager that has know-how of this business. So we have people in the construction business, we have people in the nutraceutical business, And myself, we have one in the animal business, and I'm still doing myself industrial and horticultural. So that's how we try to deal with the complexity of this product.
And putting your Nostradamus hat on, which of the many segments that you can have hemp operations in do you foresee to have the biggest growth or growth potential over the next couple of years, and why?
Good CBD did grow a lot lately in the last years, and how will it continue to grow? Maybe and hopefully you can tell me. That depends a little bit on where the regulations are going to. Will it be a narcotic or not, or what are countries doing about it? Will it be enforced, or they take it from the shelf? So there's a lot of uncertainty there. But actually, if we are able to regulate this CBD thing in a correct way together with authorities, and we find a right place for this to handle, then I think it can even grow more than it does already, because CBD is a very valuable additive to our daily diet. I see also big growth in protein, as we all know that we have to switch a little bit away from animal-based protein and more going to plant-based protein, but which protein you're taking. Hemp protein is very valuable here. So in the meat replacement, hemp can be very valuable. And
So do you think the next Impossible Burger could be an Impossibly Hemp Burger?
Yeah. At least the protein, or maybe make a combination of proteins. Maybe not only. I see a lot of companies making the mistake to try to make something 100% hemp. I don't have the desire so much to make something 100% hemp. I am more the desire to get my product as much as possible in many products as possible. So even if I get in all those vegetarian meatless burgers, I get 10% hemp protein in it, I will be very happy already. So that's really a sector we're looking at. That's maybe more long term. On the shorter term, I'm going to expect a lot from textile, because we see a massive interest from textile. Everybody knows the effects of cotton. I mentioned it before already, the negative environmental effects cotton has on our world. The hemp fiber gives a way better performance there, because we don't use any pesticides. The water use we have is about only 700 liters on a kilo fiber, where with cotton it's 17,000 liters of water on a kilo of cotton fiber.
Wow.
We're getting about 2.5 tons of fiber from an hectare, where cotton stays below 1,000. So we have the way less land use necessary to supply the amount of fiber which you normally do with cotton. So I think consumers and markets are realizing the negative effects of cotton more and more. And of course, social media is helping a lot there. And, people are getting more aware of the environment, where 20 years ago, let's face the truth, nobody cared about environment, and sustainability once became a marketing tool. Also, that is over, because people are really knowing now, is it really sustainable, or is it just sold as being sustainable? So in that case, we have a big advantage, and especially the situation where we are today with the whole COVID thing and lockdowns, I think people realized now in the lockdown how quickly the air quality improved.
It was incredible. Within a couple of weeks, not just the air, but there were new birds that hadn't been featuring in parks for over 100 years that re-emerged. The difference that the lack of industrial activity over the last few months during lockdown has been incredible.
Exactly, and that's something I think it helps us a lot, and I think people really are aware now we have to live in a more sustainable way. And of course, while I'm saying this, is 36 degrees here in the Netherlands, which is incredibly warm, too warm for the time of the year. I just read yesterday that the 5 hottest summers in the last century was measured in the 3 hottest summers in the last century was measured in the last 5 years. And the polar ice is melting faster than expected. So I think it's time to act. And I'm not saying hemp is going to save the world. Absolutely not. But hemp could be one of the solutions, because to be realistic, I think we have to do way more than only grow hemp. But if we do more hemp, we can replace as much plastic and synthetics and fossil-based CO2 emitting products. the more we can do there, the better it is. But again, we need solar energy, we need wind energy, we need a lot of things to be done. But I can only do hemp.
I love that as a way to wrap up. Hemp may not save the world, but it's going to do its part. Mark, it's been a pleasure having you on.
It was my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Where do they go? The smoke rings I blow each night.
Thanks for sticking with us till the end, listener, and we hope you enjoyed that interview with Mark, hearing about the wonderful versatility of the amazing hemp plant. And if you did enjoy that interview and think you might enjoy some of the others, I would urge you to please subscribe to the pod. And when you finish subscribing, if you have a moment, we'd love if you could leave us a nice comment, review, and if you have a moment, share with a friend or colleague who also might enjoy the pod. But for the time being, thank you so much for joining us again, and we look forward to meeting again next time. Bye now.
Hello, please take me above. Take me with you.